Well, everybody, I am psychic medium Lauren Rainbow here today, and I have a very wonderful friend and guest I am excited to share a lovely conversation about mediumship today with. So I'm going to waste no time in introducing my good friend and amazing medium from the UK, Tony Stockwell. Tony Stockwell, welcome here. I am so excited that you're spending some time with me so we can have a little talk about mediumship in our modern day world. But tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Certainly. Well, hello, Lauren. Lovely to see you, and thank you so much for asking me on. So, yeah, much like yourself, I'm a psychic medium. I think I'd like to go by different terms or different, I don't know, titles these days, but because there's so much more to us, obviously. So we both have an interest in all sorts of other modalities, including looking to the stars for help and assistance, trance connections, and links to past and ancestors, and sacred sites, and the energies around the world that we may be able to tap into. So, but people would know me from here, mainly from the UK. But of course, I've been to America so many times now,
Yes.
and Australia quite often as well. And they would know me there from demonstrating mediumship and teaching mediumship and other modalities.
I love it. And it's funny that you want to talk about a new title. I am
Mm.
working out some new stuff in my life and I've already come up with a new title. Maybe you want to share that. But I don't want to use psychic medium anymore. I want to be a mystical medium.
Yeah,
That
nice,
way we can
nice.
mix in, like you're saying, all these different aspects now that I think mediumship has evolved into. As you know, I like to work with the Akashic records and mediumship, and you're doing the star beings, and we're feeling so much more in that world of what it means to be a medium, right? That tool between. So I love it. So maybe we'll be mystical mediums. How do you like that?
I like mystical mediums very much. I like spiritual sensitives and intuitives
Ooh.
and all sorts of things. But I think, we really need about 20 different titles to describe all the things that we want to do. And this is a terribly wicked thing to say, but I think sometimes, we say the word psychic and medium, and it conjures up sort of images of the past
Yeah.
and people's sort of preconceptions of the things that we might do. And I think especially the word psychic, although I'm very proud to be a psychic, I think there's been too many sort of dodgy shops on shop corners with neon signs. And it's a shame really because
Yeah.
the word psychic has been used against people. But we can either encourage people to review it or again go by different names.
Whatever you're feeling on a soul level that resonates with the unique aspect of medium you are, right? I think that's just so
Sure.
beautiful.
Mhm.
So that gives me a lead into this wonderful question. And, you kind of went right where I want to go is mediumship has grown so much, especially I think since
Yeah.
2020. I
Mm.
feel like we have seen us break out of this kind of older mold, which I love my old development training. I remember in my early years of development, you developed even a little bit before that. It was a little
Mm.
bit cookie cuttery, but now we are incorporating so much more into what mediumship means. Why do you
Yeah.
think that is happening in this world right now?
Well, I think the world has changed and people's perception of the world, and potentially we were sold a lie. Work hard, do the right thing, and all will be well. And unfortunately, around the world, it's not working out terribly well.
Yeah.
And so we're now looking for something else to make sense. But I also think you're absolutely right. I think the beginning of the pandemic was a big shift.
Huge.
Lots of people were at home. Lots of people started to wonder what next, and all the years they've maybe been putting their training off, knowing they had a skill somehow, and suddenly they were at home and we were all available. So we all got really busy
Yes.
presenting group after group after group, and we were learning too how to do it online. And do you agree that the wonderful thing about it was in groups you could still feel the atmosphere build on
Oh, yeah.
online groups in much the same way you could in person. Did you feel that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we did a couple things actually in 2020, and I remember doing demonstrations online for the first time, and it was amazing to feel like I'm being called to that part of the screen, or like it was almost being in a theater, but still feeling as much power and energy. I was working in a little tiny kitchen in my old apartment. I also learned from you one thing, and it was about having the right container. So I found that the way I set up my space was smaller, more intimate, and this and the energy of spirit could also just energetically build really powerful there. 100%.
It's interesting because we had a conversation prior, but I'm used to working in a big room that I have outside of the house. Was an old hay barn which I had converted, and it's quite a cavernous space. And listen, I love it in there, and I work well in there. But since it's been so warm over here, I've come into the house where there's air conditioning. And this is the small room of the house. No one bothers me. I'm tucked away with the aircon working very hard behind me because it's such a small room. Oh my God. The
So much more
readings
power.
are freaking me out. I did
Yeah.
four today. I couldn't, I wanted to say to people, I'm not generally this good. Please don't recommend me because it was so good today.
Yeah.
And you just saying I'm thinking, why? Oh, because it's a much more contained space
Mhm.
in which to be in that the power builds for spirit. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right.
And I think learning, I mean, even now my new office space here is a smaller room than I've ever had in previous rooms. We're in a hybrid. I'm sometimes in person and then I jump to being here, and the container is so much stronger. 100%.
Yeah, isn't it? So as years go by, we'll be in tiny rooms, just enough room to
Just
joggle around a little bit.
well, it's old spiritualist, right? Like learning how to connect with spirit in the
Yeah.
closet, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting, really, because the idea of like the seance cabinet is
Yeah.
is a thing, and I used to sort of hate the idea of a cabinet because every old spiritualist type physical mediumship cabinet I ever sat in was really old, and I don't think anyone ever dusted.
Yeah.
So it would set off my asthma, and I'd be in this little box that looked like a porta toilet for a camping trip or something. But then over the years, you start to, well, actually, maybe they were onto something.
Hmm.
You pull those drapes around you, it's small as contained, the power of spirit does build. Yeah, so it's weird, isn't it? But it does actually work.
It's so
And
powerful.
it does. And I just want to go back ever so slightly because you talk
Yeah.
about, the changing face of mediumship. And I think way back prior to the pandemic, and I always tell people this, but it does make me feel old. But I started this in 1985, a long time ago. A long time ago, I went along as a very young man to a spiritualist church environment and watched the mediums every single week. Within a couple of years, I was demonstrating myself as a teenager in the local churches in London and so forth. But all that was available, and I don't see it in a negative way, was the odd one-to-one,
Hmm.
but copious amounts of church service. So I would work maybe 2, 3 nights in the week from church to church, which was so many. We used to have so many here in the East End
Yeah.
of London and in Essex, where I live. And so when we talk about the change in face, I think our venues have changed, the online has changed, and all those people that would never have the confidence to walk through an old creaky old door from a creaky old church and sit there not knowing the rules, suddenly they're brave enough to come and find us and find
Yeah.
us all. So it has changed, thank God.
For me, I started my journey in 2000, early 2000s, and I
Mm,
didn't start in as a medium. Maybe because I'm in the United States, it was a little different. I ended up in a
mm,
metaphysical shop.
sure.
And in the metaphysical world, we learned first Reiki and healing modalities and things like that. I was the only medium in the
Mm,
group. I didn't even know a spiritualist existed. And the only way I knew mediumship had any form was John Edward was on Crossing Over. And I went, I kind of know what that looks like. And then I started developing around the time that you and I had met. So it was a different experience to step out and learn from a whole other aspect. But it was a unique experience here in the United States, not having that in the beginning.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was just fortunate that I could walk from my house as a 16-year-old to the local spiritualist church.
Amazing. Yeah.
And in fact, I could walk to two from where I lived. We had so many back then. So many of them have gone now, they've been sold off and this kind of thing because, people don't attend them in much the same way lots of other sort of branches of Christianity may struggle, because people don't want to go. The big churches survive, of course, but, little chapels maybe don't survive anymore because people don't go. Also, people, and I'm speaking for everybody, of course I am, but so many people don't want their mediumship religious.
Yeah.
And still,
I am that
mm,
person. I left
mm.
religion and I didn't want my mediumship to be religious. Yeah.
No, no. It's different, it's very different between sort of religious mediumship and spiritual mediumship.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, people may still enjoy it, but so many people are not comfortable now singing hymns and singing and going to a divine service, and especially saying prayers full of these and thous and thy, as we still have here, in the old church. I still find it very comfortable
Mhm.
and I kind of like it sometimes. But I think modern day inquirers, they want it easier and non-denominational. And so better to maybe have our groups in a yoga studio these days, something that's far more open and representative of humanity gathering together.
Is that part of the modern day aspect, do you think, of mediumship in a way it's spirit, the loved ones up there wanting to reach more people by trying to get it out of that religious state and then more into a non-denominational world so that way more people can connect and receive that love?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't want to sound, like I've really debated this so much in my own bedroom, but, when you look at all religion, it's so divisive, whatever it is.
Yeah.
This God, that book, this God, and it's just ripping everything apart.
Yeah.
And so there's a great quote, and I couldn't tell you now who actually said it first, but let go of religion and embrace God,
Yeah.
and that's what it's got to be. And so I think we will find, and you'll also find your groups that you attract. There are people now increasingly from different countries all over the
Worlds.
world,
Mhm.
from different backgrounds. We all look a bit different, we all sound a bit different, but we're coming together as one family, and I think that's a great positive.
I love that. I was meditating myself on one thing I find unique about, and I say this in my classes a lot, is you're going to become the medium you're uniquely meant to be. That no one of us is the same. No one receives spirit the same. You're as unique in your ability as your fingerprint. That's what I often say. And I feel, and maybe I've seen this, I know a little bit about your history working in the churches. And I think you said you did trance right at 19 years old for the first
Oh,
time.
thank you.
And I talk about my beginning being in a metaphysical shop and I was learning all these healing arts. Do you feel or see that even with your students, the different uniqueness, the different studies that sometimes come together to make each one of us, a unique aspect of mediumship, a medium?
Absolutely. And again, I'm going to say something a little bit controversial, but this came up
I
in
love it.
conversation in the last couple of days. I do, as yourself, lots of online groups.
Yeah.
And one of the ladies in online, I think maybe 2 or 3 days ago, said like she thoroughly enjoys the groups and she thanks so much for the approach. And unlike other tutors, she said, referring to me, thank God, I don't try to make them work like I work. Just try to help them to see their great positivities, their unique skill sets, and I'm not trying to create like a carbon copy of self.
Yeah.
And also, and I know this for a fact, this applies to yourself, never ever wanting to be rude or berate or make someone small
Mhm.
for their unique skills in this work and tell them we don't do it that way. What is
Yeah.
that about? So I think all and all to embrace diversity, to embrace individual skills is exactly what I'm trying to promote. So wouldn't it be wonderful, if, in our groups assembled, we have like a medium and a psychometrist as combined, a medium and somebody also specializes with remote viewing,
Mhm.
another medium with great evidence, but is also the most wonderful trance medium plus. So the idea is we are all trying to find our unique contribution and the latent and well, hidden, much the same, gifts of the soul that for so many people that have gone before us, they never really found those gifts.
Yeah.
because they were so busy trying to be the medium that they were forced to be with a degree of rigidity. And that's the issue. I think all of our development has to be as a celebration and to have fun. I mean, everyone knows Lauren, you laugh harder and more enthusiastically than anybody, but how wonderful is that? You
Well,
love
I
your mediumship. You're having a wonderful time.
Well, and I also feel that the learning space is the place to have fun with these abilities. If you're gonna get into a real life world where you're gonna work as a medium, you and I know that sitting
Mm.
across from somebody is not the easiest. And there's gonna be hard emotions, difficult times
Yes.
that I often encourage my students that this is the time to play. This is the time to be brave and to stretch yourself beyond the norm. This is the time to say the weird things that are coming through so you can build the confidence to do it, in the room when you're doing it in a professional way. So I do take it more seriously and I try to have fun in my mediumship still then, but I think practicing and learning is the best place to really play.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the things that we tackle on a daily basis to the layperson is incredibly sad. But we
Yeah.
can't afford to be sad in a sad situation because we don't have the power and the energy to hold space where we try to support both worlds. And
Yeah.
so I'm not saying we giggle all the while, but we have to keep a, buoyant
Yeah.
and bubbly and as positive as we can. And even in a sad connection, see the wonder of reunion as a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. And tears of joy are entirely acceptable in that.
100%. Oh,
Mm.
it's so true. Trance is having a resurgence, isn't it? I want to talk about this with you because I didn't understand what trance was until a few years after I'd met you for the first time. I was terrified to take on the study of it, and then I started developing it, and now it's a part of the work I do. But I'm noticing now, I almost wish I knew more about it in my early days of mediumship. I wish I had almost started there. I feels
Yeah,
like in the older, 100 years ago or more, in mediumship, that's where it started in development, isn't it?
yeah,
And
very
now it's
much.
having a huge resurgence right now.
Yeah.
What do you want to share about that? Why is that happening? I have my thoughts. I want to know what you got. What you got?
Yeah, what I think that those who seek people out like us, they've had wonderful connections and information that supports our claim, absolutely, that mother is still alive and living somewhere. But then they go beyond the need to hear that information, then they want to experience that. So there's nothing quite like sitting with a deep trance medium and hearing spirit rather more speak through them. And if that's supported with a degree of transfiguration, so there's a shift of energy across the face and features, and suddenly as a layperson, you're standing, sitting, looking at that medium's face, thinking, "Oh my God, she's a man." Or, and I'm sure they weren't that color prior, the shifts of color and movement and feature across the
Love it.
face as a way of, spirit working with energy to manipulate the space that we might see a representation of who they are or who they were.
Hmm.
That's massive.
Yeah.
It is entirely massive. So people come, I think, for a big experience, but also whether we see anything or not, or whether what we hear is particularly breathtaking or maybe not so much on that occasion, you still get to feel the presence of spirit.
Hmm.
And if you create the atmosphere, such as, to dim the lights ever so slightly, to set the intention to light a candle and create the ambience, then people look to that feeling. It's
Hmm.
almost either online or otherwise, it's bellowing out.
Yeah.
There's a feeling of being in the presence of spirit.
Hmm.
And so, to my mind, one, I think people seek out an experience. But two, so many of the mediums are called to serve now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. There's something shifted in them. What do you experience? Why do you think that there
I
is
mean,
more of an
I first off, I have to say, when I started developing trance for me, it was just to enhance my mediumship, which it did. It was a never say never moment. I was like, I'll never do a trance dem, and now, I've had the presence of being on some journeys, as like in Egypt and stuff, and I'm like, I'm on the Nile. why not open up a spirit trance moment and just see what happens? And I also found that doing it in these power spots was powerful. And I think may have magnified the presence of spirit in some way. But I'm also finding that, like you, people are seeking, but I feel the palpability, and I think you're saying it in the same way, of the presence of what is built when we're in that deeper state with spirit is unlike what you experience when you're in a room with hundreds just quickly hearing the message. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we're at a time where people just want to feel love again.
Yeah. Oh,
And
it's,
I think that play, like feel love on a soul and cellular level, or being held more by spirit, that in the experiences I'm seeing and even watching you, and the way when you're here doing trans stems, and how people experience, and the rooms are getting more and more people, you know.
mm,
And I think we always see afterwards just the sense of awe and love, and I do think that we're missing that right now, that being held. And so I think trance and these deeper beautiful moments are offering a real feeling of being held. And I think we just,
yeah.
so I need to feel that sometimes, don't we? So I can see why others are benefiting from that.
No, absolutely. But you made a great point that, regardless, the trance is intensified,
Yeah.
magnified, ramped up, whatever you want to call it, by moving from the ordinary, everyday trance room or trance church setup or something, and then going to the temples or going to the pyramids or going to Machu Picchu or to an ancient wood in somewhere in Bavaria. It doesn't really matter, but there are certain hotspots in the world that will
Yeah.
entirely support the trance, that it feels uh, doubly marvelous
Yeah.
almost. Mm.
It's interesting in that I've been blessed to be able literally to trance in Machu Picchu, in Egypt, and in India. And the other thing I'm noticing is that while we have our main controls, like Centaur for you, will come through, there's also then been a transition where something specific to that area has come through
Yeah.
after, to offer, something of, so it's almost like attracting a spirit energy of, like one time when you did the Ganges, when
Yeah.
you did trance last time we were there,
Yeah. In fast.
and you did two trance stems on the Ganges, and remember the full moon where it rained sideways
Oh, wow.
in January in
Yeah.
India, when we were in Rishikesh. And I remember the hotel we were at, we're in the top room with a metal roof. And if
Mm.
you remember, the windows and the river is right there, right up against this beautiful hotel. And I remember going up there with you going, can you trance in this? And I love you. You're always, we're going to give it a try and we're going to see
Give
what
it a go.
happens.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've seen amazing trance work through you, and it's been a pleasure to see, sit beside you and watch how it's grown over now 10 years of watching you do it.
Yeah.
But that night in Rishikesh, I don't know, you don't remember, of course, being in the trance, but
But I
we
remember
all,
coming out and I remember the reaction. I
well,
do.
because my partner received
Mhm.
from that. We watched you bring his brother through, who was in spirit. It was profound. I remember you said to me something randomly before about, oh, Lauren, I'd love to learn shamanism one day. And then that night, I watched you literally do a full soul retrieval and extraction. And I'm like, learn shamanism like you're
Uh,
doing that right
it's
now.
happening
And so
regardless.
I think it's almost like you speak truth to it, right? The minute you say it, you've given it power to happen. And so
Mm.
I just I've loved working on these sacred sites. I feel blessed to have learned trance, because the places I love to do it most is when I'm on these journeys. Let's tease that out here. I'm so excited because we're going back to India in January here of 2027. I'm so excited because we're going to be in Rishikesh again on the Ganges in that wonderful hotel, as well as so many other places. Tony, tell me about your first experience in India. What did you feel like you learned the most that first time there? now that it's been some years.
Yeah, yeah, my God. Well, it's like most of these trips, we've all been on, would say we've been on these things before. When you're on the trip, you have the best time with the nicest people, you have the most amazing views. You have some great encounters, there's some great contacts, messages, wonderful soulful and spiritual connection. And it is just awesome because we're all away from home. No one's called mum when they come, unless they bring their kids, of course. But no one's called dad. No one's expected to behave in the way they would not want to or need to in the workspace. So you come along and you play again. You almost recreate yourself again. You recalibrate your life. But it's really when you come home
Yeah.
and it settles, you just feel the elevation.
Yeah.
And whilst you're having the experience, it's awesome, but it's secondary to how you move forward, heal, transform because of the experience. It goes in such a whirlwind. You don't know it's happening so much whilst
Yeah.
you're there. You just see it as an amazing time with great encounters. But it true, and it's just a naff really, but it truly is life changing, these encounters.
Yeah.
And we were saying it's 2019. I know that you're of a certain age, and I know I'm older than you, and I'm 57 now. And so at certain points in your life, you think, well, this is certainly no longer a rehearsal. It's going to be now
Yeah.
that we should have these big experiences. And I don't know, maybe last time I spoke to you, I always misquote this awfully, but the late Edgar Casey, and this is the quote-ish that I think he said, something like, getting up to 60 years of age, but the first 6 decades are the preparation for the real work.
I got 10
Now, I
years
stand to
left.
be so Oy vey, please God. But the idea is, how amazing is that? So anyone that's
Yeah.
listening and thinking, well, maybe I've left it a bit late. Maybe not.
No.
Maybe this, coming along to India with us, in January, just taking the huge leap to come on your own, which is, of course, what the vast majority rather of people did. They came along as lone
Yeah.
and single travelers because they didn't want to feel as though they had to behave in a certain way because their best friend may report home or something. Not that their behavior would be that outlandish, but you come along and you recreate, you rebirth, you transform, you calibrate
Yeah.
on a trip such as this. And of course, anyone that that might consider coming, to know you're entirely supported by Lauren, myself, and Kapil, and but also the entire group. It
Yeah.
becomes a family,
It's
and the
so true.
friendships people make on these trips are lifetime friendships.
Lifetime friendships. We have what I now call journey junkies. They are the folks who have come to one and then they want to go to the next
And
location, to
why
the
wouldn't
next
you?
location.
Why wouldn't you?
And then now they're texting me going, well, when are you going to do Greece? Or, so I feel really blessed in, the first time I decided to do a group journey anywhere, I thought I was a bit nuts, but I've been participating in these spiritual pilgrimages or spiritual journeys since 2003. England was one of my first ones, then Peru. Then I remember when I got to do my grandmother of all trips was Egypt. And every single one of them is life changing. But I was on the pyramids in Mexico and Teo, where I'm going back to again soon, where I promised Spirit that I was going to make these adventures happen. And so and then India became a journey that I just wanted to experience. And it's now one of my favorite places to go. Tony, there's so much I'm still learning about India, as much as we know what we think we know about Egypt. And I say what we think we know because we really know nothing about any of these places. There's a reason why they're called the mysteries of Egypt, but I've learned something, and you've experienced them, is the artis, these beautiful river honoring celebrations, the temples that we get to walk through. The unique thing I love about India still is that it's alive, that we are walking into these celebrations that are thousands of years old, still very much happening today. And when you've been to Egypt, I know. When you go to these temples, you can feel the power, but the practice is gone. What was going on there thousands of years before is what we're guessing what they did based on what maybe we see written on the wall. In India, you're participating in live ceremonies that are they're thousands of years old. These artis and these river blessings and so many other things, and they're still alive. They're still happening, and we get to participate with the people. You know, it's such a cultural experience. Um,
Yeah.
that I find so soul changing in India. And, you know, let's talk a little bit about our upcoming journey. We're going to be in Rishikesh, my favorite place in the world.
Mm.
We're going to be on the Ganges, the sacred holy river, which we now in India, they just say Ma Ganga, which is the goddess. Now, I don't know if you know, actually know this about Ma Ganga, but she is also the bridge to the other side. So in many Hindu traditions, they see her as the bridge of transition to spirit. So I think it's really incredible that we're going to be parked in Rishikesh on this
Literally,
river,
yeah, on it, yes.
you
Yeah.
know, and to develop spirit, to develop deeper connection with our abilities, and to practice and to be among, like you said, people who want to. So if you were thinking about going to India with us, you've already kind of talked to the support and the care, about what about learning the teachings and experiencing that in a place like India?
Yeah, well, we certainly had some lessons, where people can come and practice. There was parts of the day or parts during the week that we were able to, to impart some knowledge with some practical application. But I just found people were spontaneously having wonderful conversations that were so much
Yeah.
deeper and more profound without saying partner up and everyone having a profound, conversation. It was happening all the while. And the presence, because this place is such a heightened, energetic space where many people flock to over many, many years, you go there and it's a different vibe. You're almost like you're walking into a bubble of power or something. And
Yeah.
so, again, we say things, speak of things, we have wonderful conversations, great demonstrations, great experiences come together, feedback, share. And I loved the idea of just listening to people share their experience and their innermost, because that's never going to happen in a normal seminar. It just
Yeah.
doesn't happen in that way. There is no time. We're so busy barking at people to do this next and try this next. But it's a meandering, life-changing, life-enhancing experience.
Yeah.
And the social
Mm,
aspect was fabulous.
so fun.
The social aspect of just
Singing the Beatles
being
on the
with
bus.
it's on the bus. Listen to Krishna Das at full belt.
Krishna does. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved it. And I'm
Yeah.
excited to have you come back. And, you
Thank
know,
you
I
for
remember
asking.
the first time I was inspired to even ask you, it was the day before my birthday. I was in Rishikesh and I said, I just had this vision of you doing trance in Rishikesh. And I remember texting
Yeah.
you, and it was holy. It was the color festival. And I remember texting you going, how would you like to come to India? I woke up on my birthday to the answer in big letters, yes. And I was like, oh my God, happy birthday, Lauren.
Easy to memory. And
So
easy. But I've
it
always
was
been drawn there. I've always been drawn there. And to go with the group made it altogether possible.
so
Mm.
let me ask you this. I think that's so key. Why do you think you were drawn to India on a soul level?
Always and forever. If you think, imagine places in the
Past
earth
life?
you desperately want to go. The
Yeah.
past life, I think past life weaves its web through all things. But to my
Mm,
mind, it was more like the sense of the living spirit, go and encounter, we'll meet you there.
yeah.
That's really what it felt like. So I'm delighted to be asked back, again. Thanks so much,
No,
for
well,
including me.
you
Mm.
you you part asked for it.
Yeah,
You kept texting me going, "Are we going back to India?" And I said, "Well, let's finally
yeah,
make that happen." And
yeah, yeah,
it's my second home now.
yeah.
I so enjoy being there. And I know here's one thing I just want to, take a moment with while we have you. A lot of people, I think, have a view of India in their mind, and they get a little nervous about what is India going to be like to travel through. And I can speak to it till I'm blue in the face, but I'm quite familiar with India. As you know, we create a really safe environment. We create door to
Mm.
door service. We pick everybody up at the airport. We drop you off at the airport. We've got really wonderful hotels, and everything is covered. How
Yeah.
would you help others understand if they're going to India for the first time, how well cared for they are in the space with us.
Well, entirely. When I came in, I think a day later than everybody else, 'cause I think I was doing something prior. I came in with a friend of mine, so the both of us landed together, and there wasn't a moment where I even had to think, where do we go? What do we do? Because someone was there. They took our bag. They took us to the car. They spoke wonderful English. They were able to explain exactly what was happening. We met you. We were then all together on a, but you were never on your own.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you wanted just to,
To be.
meditate away. But, when you were actually traveling around, no one ever got lost. Everyone was watching out for each other. Kapil knew everybody, watched over everything constantly. And so, wanting to be entirely truthful, you just felt so utterly guided
Mhm.
on a spiritual journey. And it
Yeah.
was easy. So it would be available for anybody of any age. And this is, I had a conversation with a couple of ladies from sort of a number of groups I have, and a few of them were saying, "Oh, we're thinking about coming along." And there were some fears, about a bit older, maybe ladies in their 60s and so forth. And but
Not a
I
problem.
was just saying, come along because you
Yeah.
will not regret it. You will be cared for all the way through.
Yeah.
And that is certainly the case.
We work really hard in the journeys that I've created to create as much ease, especially in a place like India. There is a lot. I always say India is a beautiful country, a lot of color, a lot of smells, a lot of sounds, and there is
Mm.
indeed, people. And India is such an incredible experience that we want you to feel so at ease and not, like you said, worrying about your suitcase or your things, so that you can just experience this culture and let
Yeah,
it envelop you. So, if
yeah,
you're thinking about coming and you have any questions, and you can always, refer to me here at laurenrainbow.com. You can see information at Tony's site, tonystockwell.com. I am the master of the show when it comes to the technical side. So bother me with all your
yeah.
technical
Please,
questions.
please do.
And we're happy to help you. Tony, I am so grateful that you're taking time with me to share some teachings about mediumship. And I'm so excited to go back to India. I can't wait. It's going to be here before you know it. So if
Right.
anybody is thinking about it, and you did say something I think I want to address really fast. If you are a solo traveler, we have options. You can certainly do a single room option, but if you want to be with somebody, there is the double room option. People get confused. Does double mean you have to bring a guest? You do not. We do have solo travelers who choose to be in with a roommate, and we will pair you up with the best, most accommodating roommate. And you said something so true. We're become a family. I mean,
Yeah,
even our group from 2019, they still
yeah,
connect. And I love when they're in town. Everybody, I have so many groups that come together, and every time they're in town, Lauren, can we meet? Who's who? I'm here in town. Who wants to come
yeah.
together? We are wonderful little families, and I feel so blessed to have all of these beautiful, mystical, traveling families all over the world right now.
Yeah, that is a wonderful thing. Yeah, please come. You'll have a wonderful time.
Come join us. And Tony, like I said, thank you for spending time with me
No
today.
worries. God
I
bless.
always love spending time with you. And, if you have any final words of wisdom or just a little tidbit before we go.
Yeah, well, something deeply inspirational. I think that that the time is now.
Yes.
It's not to be delayed. It's not to be put off for another year or seven. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Now is the time. Seize the day.
You're so right. Oh, my friend, thank you so
That's okay.
much.
No
And
worries. Nice to see you.
always good to see you. I know that lastly here, you're going to be back with us in December here in New England.
Yeah,
So go to tonystockwell.com. We thank you. And one of my dearest friends, mentors, and one of the best teachers I know. I appreciate you.
thank you so much.
Have a good day.